Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Biz Women Rock podcast. I'm your host, Katie Kremitzos. This podcast is perfect for you if you are hungry to continue growing a business that you love so you can live a life that you get to design. Today's episode is sponsored by Chase Inc. and the new Business Unlimited credit card. With unlimited 1.5% cash back on purchases, no annual fees, no minimum balance to redeem rewards, the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited credit card is a great choice for busy entrepreneurs. So simple. Keep things simple with Chase Inc. Business Unlimited credit card issued by Chase Bank USA, N.A. For more information, visit chase.com/Inc. Hey, what's going on? I'm Katie Kremitzos, your host of the Biz Women Rock podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about money and your business. Now, when it comes to money in your business, there are generally 4 different ways that we have this conversation. The first is making more money in business, which is a very prevalent and probably the sexiest of all the ways to talk about it in the business world. The second is your money mindset, which is seen as the softer way of the softer conversation about money, but ultimately is really the determinant as to whether we're growing our businesses or not. The third is investing our money, how we're spending our money in an intelligent way. And the fourth is organizing our money, the not so sexy and not so talked about way that actually needs to be talked about because it is massively impactful on how much we're actually enjoying this business journey and doing it in an organized way. Today, we're going to be talking about that last one, the organizing our finances, because not only does it have a major impact on the other 3 that we talked about, but ultimately it is a worthwhile endeavor to put your time and attention into in order to ultimately save time so that you can spend your time running your company instead of managing or worrying about your finances 24/7. In order to have this conversation, I'm so excited to bring on the incredible Heather Robertson-Divine. She has become a friend. She's been a part of the Biz Women Rock community for quite some time. She's been a client. She's been part of my masterminds. And I have had the privilege of witnessing firsthand her business do some major, major growth. She owns the company Books del Sur, and she imports books, authentic Spanish books from Latin America into the schools of the U.S., into public schools in the U.S. And she does this very beautifully. There is almost no one in her industry who does something like this. She started her business back in 2009, and back then she had 12 book titles for schools to choose from. Now, in 2018, she has over 300. So you could tell the major growth that she's had. Now, she's had a couple significant points in her business. In 2015, that was the first year that her business actually made a profit. And then in 2016, I was lucky enough to witness when she had a massive, massive mindset shift on approaching her business as a teacher who sells books to an actual business owner, someone who needs to really take ownership of her company and how she was doing things. Each of these phases of her business have dictated a certain mindset about how she is looking at her money. And in relation to today's conversation, different ways and tools that she's managing her money throughout each of those phases. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going over very specific ways that Heather has and has evolved into manage her money. Tools like business credit cards, spreadsheets. She tells a good story about going from a shoebox method and now how she's evolved to a very integrated and awesomely sophisticated online method of managing her money. We talk a lot about the different timelines and systems and processes that she's implemented in her business in order to make sure, and she has the accountability to show up as the financial owner of her company. Ultimately, at the end of the day, she and I have a really robust conversation about the tools and the strategies that we use that are ultimately really simple that you can implement at any phase in your business journey to make your money management really easy. Now, it's worth noting that I am giving you a really good money bundle. And that money bundle is going to be a compilation of a couple of different tools that we talk about through this conversation. It's going to be available to you at bizwomenrock.com/money bundle. And I'll just give you an idea of a couple of the things that are going to be in there. There's going to be kind of the bullet points of what Heather and I discuss, all of those specific tools and tricks and strategies. B, it's also going to have in there my financial focus spreadsheet. It's one of my favorite tools to use for myself and all of my clients to not only project potential income that can come into your business to help with that mindset, but also to actually track the money that does come in a very simple way. The third is that you're going to get, it might be an elementary style, but it's going to be a diagram of how I organize my business bank accounts. It's heavily influenced by the Profit First method. It's something I really love and use. And so you'll get a really easy to read diagram of that. Lastly, you're going to get a link to my favorite money tracking app that is just wonderful. So you're going to get all of that, and it's going to be available at bizwomenrock.com/money bundle. So make sure you get access to that. If you are in the space of being way too stressed out about maybe how, worrying about how you're not managing your finances well enough, knowing that you could manage them better, or you're spending way too much time managing your finances, this is the conversation to listen to. So sit back and enjoy this amazing conversation with Heather Robertson-Divine. Heather, what's going on, girl?
Hi, Katie.
I'm so excited that you're here.
This feels familiar and great. Very
familiar
comfortable.
And great. So I have had the pleasure of having you as a client in the past. You have been part of my masterminds in the past, and really just have become one of my favorite people in this world. You're a friend of mine. We talk mommy shop all the time, mompreneur stuff all the time, like full on, let's impact the world type of stuff. You are my people. So you've been on the show before, but I'm really happy to have you back here because I have had the pleasure of witnessing specifically your mindset growth that you've had over the past year or two in your business. And I know enough about your business journey to know that the financial component, the money component of that mindset evolution has been massively impactful on how your business has grown. And so I wanted specifically to have a conversation about how we have organized our finances in our businesses in order to stay productive, because we're busy running businesses. And if we make the money thing really hard and challenging, then it gets dropped or it gets forgotten about or it kind of gets swept under the rug in not such a pretty way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to bring you on to have that conversation. So first of all, thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. I love sharing with you, and I'm always learning from you, even if I'm supposed to be like sharing information.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to start first with when you started Books del Sur. What year did you start that?
Okay. So Books del Sur founded in the summer, August of 2009.
Okay. Gotcha.
Midway through that year.
What did life look like for you back then? Like, was it just like, okay, I'm starting this company and I'm immediately like going to be importing all these books and going, to all the classrooms in the districts to, impact all of the dual language schools? Like, what did it actually look like? Because you were a teacher back then.
Yeah. So some interesting details is that if you can see this picture right here, right?
Yes.
That is actually me graduating from the University of California, Northridge in 2007. So, and that's really important because in 2009 was the second year that I'd earned a teacher's salary with a master's degree. And if you don't know about the teacher world, the master's degree does make an impact on your income. So it was really like the second year of my life, I was out of what felt like poverty.
You're like, yay, I've made it in the world. I'm actually bringing home good money.
Right. So it was like the first time that I could actually think about money. And like one of the economic terms is thinking about luxury spending, right? And so I finally knew what that meant. And so it wasn't just, strapped for cash all the time. And I mean, I'm not trying to give a sob story. I had a great life. But it was, I was able to travel again. And so that was the impetus for starting Books del Sur. Was I was actually able to travel to South America, which in the past travel was always tough. I had to work in the summers. The cost of travel alone was me to scrape together. So it was a time where I was finally making some money. I didn't have any children. my husband at the time, we'd bought a home and we'd had an income property. So we were starting to become adults and
Got it.
starting to make adult decisions.
You were full on adulting, girl.
Yes. Yes. And I might've been 30. Oh.
So you thought you were adulting. You thought that was adulting, and now you know better, right?
Right. Absolutely. Actually, now I'm like, oh, that was nothing. Like now I'm really an adult. I'm a mom.
So why did you start the company?
So I started the company because I was also in a leadership position in my school, and teachers were looking for books. And this was something that was not new. We'd been looking for books for a long time. I worked in dual language programs for my entire career, and the number of Spanish books available compared to English books was always this inequitable gap that was just glaring. And a bunch of teachers had gotten back from a Fulbright scholarship, which I was an alternate on. Didn't make it. And they learned all about Latin American literature. And they said, we want these books. So I went on Amazon to order them, talked to the different sales reps that were working with our school, and no one had them. So I was like, okay, well, let me call my South American friends, and I can travel there because I've got some money. And so let's do it. And so that was the impetus for starting to get high quality books for our students in our public schools.
So you have let me know in those early years, it was just sort of like a little hobby business, meaning I call it like the Mary Kay years, right? Where it's just sort of like, oh, I just do this because I need the makeup, right? Or I want it and I'll get the discount. And if anyone happens to tell me that they need it, I can provide it, right? And so you were like, yeah, that's kind of what it was for me. But how did you manage, like, what was your concept of managing your money back then? How did you do it? What were maybe just one or two of the things that you did that were good that helped you manage your money back then?
So again, like, I was just becoming an adult. And at the time, my husband had a business as well. And so we worked on the shoebox strategy, where you would purchase things and then you'd take the receipt and you'd put it in a shoebox. And that shoebox was designated for whichever business it was. So we had an income property at the time. And so, right. So we had these shoeboxes. And so it wasn't until after a year where I was like, this shoebox thing is not working for me. Like I'm not super good at putting the little pieces of paper in the box. So then sorting out income at the end of that, 2009 was fine. It was 2010 that I was like, whoa. So after 2010, I'd opened a bank account and got a credit card for my business so that I could just use that.
Got it. So how did you use that credit card in the beginning?
Well, it wasn't actually, in the beginning, it was still pretty much like I was able to use my credit card, purchase books, and then by the time I got paid, pay it off on my credit card. So I had a 0 interest credit card, and that was great for me. By the time purchase orders, school income is very stable. So by the 30-day terms were up, I was able to pay my credit cards off. Sometimes I would go over, sometimes I wouldn't. It just depended. So
got it. And I love that was really strategic on your part, probably pretty easy of like, look, I can't have this thing super complicated. I just know that I have, that time period of waiting is the good benefit for me because I can pay everything off at once by the time I get the money, and you're planning for that. At what point did that not work for you anymore? Like, when did you really outgrow that where you were like, I need to, like, what was the next phase and how you then organized everything?
So the next phase of this is, and was Excel spreadsheets. Yeah. My friend.
Literally, I want you to raise your hand listening or watching this right now if you're like, oh yeah, and I'm still there, because every business owner has the Excel spreadsheet, and everything lives there, right? Like you don't have anything else. It's all there.
Right. Because
so it's really just
they're quote unquote free, right? I already paid for my Microsoft. So it's free. Why would I pay for another app or another something?
It's like the electronic version of the shoebox. That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your bank, you can download your statements in, CVS form and then import and, sort all that data. So that was the next phase. A little bit. So 2014, 2015 was a big transition year for me. And the end of 2015 was like, oh, there's money here. Now I need to figure out what to do with this, because before that there wasn't money. There wasn't much to sort out. And especially because I was organized and it was in one place.
Yeah.
And so in 2015 was the year that I was like, oh, okay, now what do I do with all this?
Right.
And I have to pay taxes, and I have to really, really think about it. So it was all in Excel spreadsheets. At that time, then I also could get rid of the no interest credit card and then get a credit card where I could earn, points. And that's a really awesome thing.
Be a little bit more strategic about why you're doing all of that stuff. Yeah. Got it. It's so funny that you mentioned I think for every business owner, the year that you finally make a profit is amazing and also terrifying, because all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, like I need to adult now in my business, right? Like that's the final adulting moment in your business, or at least the starting adulting moment, because it's like, I remember exactly when we had that moment in Chris and I's business, our local organization. And it was like, that was the first year that I was like, oh, there's like an entirely new room of things that I need to think about now. Like the tax implications. How am I organizing this? We were not paying ourselves at that time either, obviously, because we weren't used to making enough money to pay ourselves. And so it was like that massive shift. Did you go through a big mindset shift as you made that? Like, did you have stuff come up where you were like maybe fighting against it, or deliberately not procrastinating on things that you knew that you needed to do?
I mean, are you really asking me this question? Oh, it's an interview, because you know the answer.
I know the answer
already.
The
answer. So I just mentioned 2015, the end of the year was like, oh, I've got money, I don't know what to do. So 2016 in January, I signed up for this jumpstart class with the great Katie Krimitsos of Biz Women Rock. And it was this whole thing of, and you remember clearly that I was pretty stubborn, and I mean, then we started coaching together. So probably mid-June was when I'd like cried 3 times about money, and we really had some serious talks, and some really, like, you really making me dig in. And one of the great things you said to me, and I know you're going to share one of these, this tool with everyone, was making me put down the numbers and then say, now look at those, Heather, they're numbers.
Yeah.
Let it go.
They're numbers. They don't have to mean anything about who you are, or, have big attachment to emotion behind them. They're numbers. But, I think sometimes in my experience, not only with myself, but in clients that I've had, and just the amazing women that I've had the privilege to work with over all these years, there are the reason that we often ignore our finances or procrastinate on organizing them well is because it's scary. And like, there's this major mindset shift that you have to go through. There's a big growing that you have to step into in order to now say, okay, I am going to be adult enough to be able to manage what is in front of me. Right. And that comes along with a lot of fear and a lot of, knowledge, like I've got to step up my game. Right. But the other side of this is that we typically think that it has to be hard, and that there's all this like, oh my gosh, now I have to learn all this new stuff. So now I have to be a financial advisor basically in order to successfully manage my business. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation and make it available to every single woman who's a part of the Biz Women Rock community, because I'm here to tell you, and Heather and I can both testify, there have been some ugly times.
Wholeheartedly. Full on. Like, don't think that I don't have baggage with money.
Yeah. Well, it's not even the emotional baggage. It's the stuff that we've done in the past that we thought was the right thing in the moment. Or it was like okay, we're going to do this to get by, because it felt like doing the opposite was too hard. And what the purpose of this conversation is to give you tools and real strategies to show you how simple those things actually could be. So on that note, I actually want to ask this question. What's probably one of the worst money mistakes that you have made throughout this journey of growing your business? Like, was there a time when you were just like, I am either sweeping this under the rug, or I'm not going to pay attention to it, or I'm not good with money? Like, what was it? Give an example of what it was, something that you were just not good with or wasn't a good decision financially.
So fortunately, I've had great fortune in my product purchasing and that sort of thing. Like, I have not lost money there. I think my biggest mistake was not spending money and not investing in my business.
Talk about that. What did that actually look like to you in reality?
Yeah, so it's looked like slow growth. And so, and so money is a utility, right? It's used for exchange. And, and before, when I was holding on to money as all of the emotional things I associate with it, it was hard for me to think of it as a utility. And so once and I'm not saying that I'm completely detached from it being an emotional thing for me, but once I was able to see it as a utility and put down the numbers, and just something so simple, Katie, as looking at how much time, if Thomas was with so I have a 3-year-old son, almost 4, for those of you who don't know, because I talk about him all the time. I feel like everyone should. But just simply putting down the numbers one summer of like, okay, if I had a little bit more childcare for my son with my neighbor who he loves, what would that look like?
Mm.
And when I wrote down the numbers, I literally laughed out loud, because I was like, why would I not do that?
Yes.
Why would I not exchange my time for that service, which is really beneficial to everyone?
Yeah.
And so, so to be clear, like using money for the utility it is, and really thinking of it in what I use it for in exchange for what I get, and to really add growth to my business.
Oh, love it. I wanted to identify that mindset shift and maybe the challenges that we're having in doing it, because in order to really talk about the practicalities of how you can organize your business financially, in order to just make it so simple so you can get busy running your company,
Mm-hmm.
that's a giant hurdle that is often hidden. That's like the big elephant in the room. So I just wanted to address that. So let's move beyond that to now. How do you give me some examples of how you organize your finances right now, and why does it work for you?
Okay, so there's a couple things that are systematic and strategic. One, we've moved into using, like, goodbye Excel. I haven't said goodbye to you completely, because I still use you for lots of work in the bodega, but you are no longer my financial management system. So I've gotten away from that. So that moving into an automated system really, really does a lot of, like, just it's a big release.
What does that mean? What does that look like? That looks like QuickBooks to you, right?
It looks like QuickBooks for me. It also looks like me hiring someone to manage my accounts. So so I have an employee that if I write a check, I give her the copy of the check, so that she can reconcile it with our bank. So it's also allowing our banking system to talk to QuickBooks, and so that those our money is all flowing together, which is really huge. Like if you don't belong to a bank that talks to QuickBooks, or our online store also talks to QuickBooks, like all of those systems need to talk to each other.
Right.
And so we've integrated our entire entire company's systems to have a flow and to have a system. There's also some just tangible things like paper trails and things like that we do. I don't have a shoebox, but I have an envelope.
Okay, got it.
Like
How do you use that?
when I go to the bank, I bank with Chase, and when I go, I do go to the bank, and I do love to deposit in their ATM, because they print out a picture of the check.
Yes. That's one of my favorite things about them, by the way. I'm like,
Yes.
cool, awesome. I've got a freaking beautiful picture and proof of everything that just happened here.
Yes. And I have learned that I do need that paper trail. I don't need that paper trail every time. I maybe need that paper trail 1 in 100 times.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, that 100th time, when I have it, it is such a savior for me, because I know right where it is. It's not like, because it's already, that impression's made in my brain. I can visualize the check on that sheet. So those kinds of things have been really, that's a system that's really important. I also, finally, because you're pushing, I have automatic withdrawals. So now I just pay myself monthly, and it's automatically deposited from one account to another. Same with my employee, one account to another, automatic withdrawal every month. And then from that, every month we do just a financial report meeting time. So we have like anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour where we just kind of go over, like, let's reconcile our accounts. If she's like, who is this and what did you charge? Those kinds of conversations. And we put it in a spot so that once a month we can talk about it. And it's not like one of those million things hanging over us.
Yes.
To reconcile our accounts and then just to check in, like, how are we doing?
Right.
Oh boy, and just talk about, I'm going to do some purchasing. So there's going to be less cash flow this month, and just kind of take a pulse.
I love it. Okay. Literally every single one of those is gold. And I want to highlight a couple of things out of all of those. Number one, the fact that you hire someone and there is a designated person on your team to kind of manage the intricacies of between the financial stuff that's needed between you and the systems that you've set up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal, because there are a lot of, especially solopreneurs out there, who feel like they've got to do it themselves. And so this is giant in the sense of, if you make somebody else responsible for it, you are less likely to screw it up, to procrastinate on it. I have a client of mine who, she's got some mindset stuff around sending out invoices to her clients, even though her clients are happy to pay it. Like, she hesitates on it, and it becomes the last thing that she does. And so it messes with cash flow, right? And so she's like, I need to delegate this to my team member, who it's just part of the checklist for her, right?
Are you telling the story of me? Because that is exactly my story. Because when I was working with my current employee, I said to her, I was like, hey, you like it when those numbers are equal. I was like, that's so interesting. I was like, I don't really pay attention to that. I was like, do you think you could do billing for me? And she's like, absolutely. She's like, I like it when they all line up. I like it to be even.
Yes.
And when I realized that, I was like, okay, I need you. And also, when you have that money mindset, you don't want to talk about things. I don't want to, I would have this monthly meeting that I was telling you about on my calendar when I was working by myself. I never did it. I was always like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do that. But now that I have someone else who's bugging me, and also bugging me, like, what is this charge? The accountability and it's just ramped
It's
up.
huge. Mm-hmm. And so that leads me to the next point that you had talked about, which is having a dedicated time in your calendar to actually look at stuff and have your finances in your face. And I feel there are two things that typically happen, I think. And I keep on telling you guys this because I want you to hear that, like, you're not alone if you do any of these things. Mm-hmm. It typically happens where if we are doing it all ourselves, we will avoid that meeting to look at everything, or we feel really guilty about the fact that, like, on any given day, we don't know exactly where we stand, right? And so ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to do what works best for you. I've absolutely had conversations with very well-respected businesswomen who literally, during points in their business, they knew exactly what their budget was or what their P&L was every single day, and that's just where they needed to be. And then there are those of us like you and I, like I have a monthly meeting too with my CPA. And so it's my forcing of myself to show up and look at those numbers that I'm too busy to look at every other day of the week. Right. So it's like, no, that's a time when it is the check-in for me to make sure everything's going to where it needs to go, to make sure that, I'm typically really cognizant of expenses, but if there was something that was a little out of whack, like, that's when I'm catching it and just making sure that that's getting, accommodated. So that's really important. And the accountability of having somebody else be a part of that meeting is a huge deal. That's a good tool, really good tool.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about how you organize your actual accounts. Because, somebody listening might be at the beginning of their business journey where they are like, okay, I just set up my business account basically. And that's good. But there's a lot more sophistication that can happen when you are ready for that. So maybe talk a little bit about how that might have looked like for you in the beginning of your business journey, and now how it looks.
Yeah. And I have to say, I don't even know at what point in the beginning I had my own bank account. I know that I had a credit card in the beginning, but I'm not sure about the bank account stuff. So, it was probably, anyway. Okay. So not to get stuck in that, but so right now I have a business account. I don't have different things set aside, but in that account I know that I need to have a certain amount of money for me to feel comfortable. There's one or two times of the year when I do my big purchasing that I know that it's going to dip down, and I know that's going to happen, but for the most part, there's a certain amount I want to keep in it. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's shifting for me. So this is the first time this year that I'm going to need to meet with my accountant right now, because my income level is well beyond what it has been in the past. So,
right.
So then I need to do an actual meeting with my accountant and see if I need to file taxes right now, which is also another total different shift for me.
Right.
And how I know that is because it is in my system. I can look at the dashboard of QuickBooks and see like what my sales are, as well as my monthly meetings. So I use, and I think I need to answer the question a little bit more specifically. I use credit cards, some, especially for payments of certain bills. They're automatically put on credit cards.
Nice.
I use the bank to, and this is something that we talked about before, and I should mention now, I use the bank to pay. So I make purchases, international purchases. So I need to do international wire transfers. So I use the bank to do that. And I do that with some accounts out of my business, and I have to do some of them in my personal. So it's really great that I can transfer money between my personal and my business very easily. And then I can also tag it, put a memo in there about which this is going for. So, and then I also, we have our online store, which is integrated with our bank. And then, if we're at events or things like that, we'll use PayPal. So that also counts as another account. PayPal does. And so PayPal is also used to, some organizations just use it more than others. And that is an important ingredient in all of it too.
Love it. And I will add to this conversation by saying that, setting up a business bank account is a really good start. Mm-hmm. The kind of second step beyond that is, you guys have heard me probably talk and rave about the Profit First method, the book by Mike Michalowicz, which I highly recommend that you go listen to and read. But ever since I read that book, I made what I consider sort of the next phase of organization of business bank accounts. And by the way, I'm giving you guys a total freebie of a whole money bundle that I'm putting together for you. And this one tool is going to be in it. There'll be a couple more tools in it. But I will give you like kind of the diagram. It's going to be, in my handwriting, a little diagram of the different types of bank accounts that I have and how I automatically transfer money into them. We're talking about simplicity here, you guys. And so setting up that system once where your money all comes into one operating account and then throughout the month gets automatically transferred into a bunch of different, very purposeful accounts, by the way, you start seeing movement in your money and building of your money very, very quickly. And it's mind-boggling, actually. And so that's what I've considered like kind of the second phase of how I can organize money. And then the third phase, well, I don't know if those are like, this would really be in phase 2 as well, would be having the business credit card. And mm-hmm. I know you talked about the fact that like you had, you used a business credit card very differently than what you do now. And I love the fact that you just like in the beginning were like, what do I need? Okay, I need the flexibility of being able to pay, a little bit later when I get the money. Mm-hmm. One of the things I love best about the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited credit card is that it's so simple. So especially if you find yourself in the beginning phase of your business where it's like, I had a lot of hiccups getting a business credit card in the beginning because I was like, I can't even think about managing points. Like that's just too, I feel like I need to do a full-on university education just to manage points. And which one do I choose? And that's why this one is so great because it's like 1.5% back on everything, literally no other details. Like that's it.
You don't have to click every month or every 2 months.
You don't have to allocate. There's no categories. Like you just use your credit card for everything. And that's what I really recommend for people as they start getting a little bit more savvy about organizing their business accounts is open up your business credit card, get that credit card, And then just start literally all of the automatic purchases that you already have coming through your business account, put them on that credit card, and you're naturally going to earn that 1.5% back just by spending the money that you're already planning on spending.
Put your cell phone bill on that.
Put your cell phone bill, put your like internet, all of
whatever
those
bills monthly, just put it on there.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And it's
so smart. So smart.
Don't have to think about it.
But the great part is again, like the reason why we're having this conversation is that these are tiny little things that take a little bit of time to set up, not much. And then once they're set up on autopilot, so keep
no more time to set up than to actually just pay them.
Yeah.
You just have to do it once.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So,
but for sure, take a pulse, keep a pulse, keep seeing it come out.
And what I love is hearing you say like that you have gone through transition of how you're using all these tools, like how you have used, Chase's online portal, because it's amazing. And the reason that you have the personal and the business accounts with them is because you need that to work for your business to really be in flow. You need to be able to see that statement. You need to be able to really line up all of those finances, keeping in line with what money's coming in and what money's coming out, on a given month. And most especially with the credit card is like, I literally almost every expense that I have goes on my credit card. And so I only need to worry about cash actually coming out of my bank account once a month. And I know in my head what that amount needs to be or should be or what it's about to be. And so like, I don't need to worry about cash constantly coming out. So it just makes it so, I don't know, it makes it so simple.
Well, and I actually, I've mentioned a couple of things that come out of my accounts. And so I'm also able to ask for that date of your credit card so that it is in line with the other dates. Or I don't know if I did it one way or vice versa, but I do try and within a week have most of mine. And then there's one expense that I spread out and put at a different time of the month. Right.
Yep.
So
yep.
those are things that you do want to think about. I don't think I mentioned, but talking about seasons, another season, before I had all of my banking at Chase, I had two different places, and I wasn't able to use online tools. And my son was born, and even like between 0 and 2, naps were like my saving grace. And so, and it was always tricky to go to the bank, especially in times that I really had to make those online wire transfers. So I went over to Chase because I could do that so simply from my home and while my child was sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of convenience and tools that are out there right now to make the managing of our finances and our businesses a lot more convenient, and less intensive and less time intensive are huge. And it doesn't take many. It takes a couple of major tools that you can implement now. So you guys, I'm going to be sharing with you in the money bundle, which is going to be at bizwomenrock.com/money bundle. It's a free download for you. And it has a bundle of a couple of things. It has number one, my financial focus spreadsheet, which is a favorite for a lot of my Biz Women Rock community members. It literally is a way to easily track income that's coming in and simultaneously be able to project what types of income you can potentially have coming in. So it simultaneously kind of works on mindset and practicalities of money coming in without it being too heavy. And it's something that literally in my business, every time I bring in revenue, I go in there and I update it and boom, I'm done. And then the other thing that I'm going to have for you is that diagram of how I organize my business bank accounts. And then lastly, I'm going to have in there just a recommendation for one of my favorite money management tools. It's Denise Duffield Thomas's money app. I don't know if it has a particular name, but I'll put that link in that bundle as well. And that's another one where I can set a financial goal for myself and I can track every dollar that comes in, and be very grateful for every dollar that comes in. Like it's that beautiful combination of money mindset and, really like taking the moment to actually identify and honor the money that we are bringing in because our businesses are growing. So often, ladies, we, just like in the activities that we spend like building our businesses, we can check something off our list, have a huge accomplishment, bring in a certain amount of money, make a big sale, whatever it is. And we just move on to the next thing. And we forget about, wow, like really honoring that thing that just happened. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these tools are such a really great way to enhance the entire journey and to make sure the financial part of your journey can be seen as easier. It can be seen as not so abrasive or scary. And most importantly, it makes you feel so empowered. Like, yeah, I'm like good at this stuff. Like, Heather, we've implemented a couple of these tools for you over the couple of years. And like the amount, you and I had a conversation before we got on right now. And I was almost in tears, like about how proud I am of you, because you are having like almost double the growth this year that you had last year, which is absolutely incredible. And so much of that is the mindset, the money mindset that comes along with, okay, now I need to make a couple of big changes and implement a couple of things to help me organize my money so that all of this stuff is possible. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, oh my goodness, so much good stuff. So, thank you. Like just so much good stuff. To end this conversation, what do you think is still one of your biggest challenges that you have financially? Whether it's in the organization of your money or knowing that something's ahead that you kind of need to be prepped for, like what are one of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now?
Well, my business is based on sales. So,
every business is based on sales.
Yeah. And, I mean, everyone should probably think that way. Well, some don't, but, and so for me, my biggest challenge is that, planning, predictability, what's going to happen, as well as goal setting. I think that, I think my money mindset gets in the way because it feels arrogant and, a little bit selfish. Like, oh, I'm going to make this much. Like, it's a little bit uncomfortable. So so those are probably some of my biggest challenges. And also just growth and doing so many new things. It's hard to say, like, we talked about before, the number of books I even carry now is a lot more than I started with. So even being able to predict, like, what does that mean? And what are the potentials of it is a little bit tricky. So predicting, and then because that really cuts into planning. So you do your best to, like, all right, this is where I want to go. And like, last year I didn't hit my goal until the absolute end. And now this year I blew by my goal. So whenever I've been a goal setter, I've always been of the mindset of, set your goals high, but high enough so that you can reach, so that you can still feel good about yourself. And, and with finances, I feel like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, this is my goal setting really is off. And so, but it's okay. It is. And that's where it is.
And I think it's a matter to really drive the point home that at every season that we spend in our business, we have learned something new that then will allow us to approach our finances, how we organize them, how we're making more money, how we're spending money in a more, spending money in a more efficient, effective way, how we're benefiting from all of that, right? Taking just one step beyond it again, but like you can't do it all now. So like, just start where you are, do the best you can right now to manage those finances, to take control. Like, really, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are in business and you're running a company, like, there is a major shift that you have to go through that says, I am 100% responsible for my money. And so therefore I have to show up to that relationship as an adult, right? Here we come back to the adulting thing. And so and I say that and recognize that you are where you are right now. So start somewhere. Like, it's almost a detriment sometimes if you know what is possible or how people maybe 10 years beyond you in business are organizing finances or how they do things, because you're like, oh my God, I should be doing that now. And I'm in year 2. No, just start where you are, do the few things that you know that help you now. And then just know that, like, you're going to know in that next season of business, like, oh, I just learned this. Okay. Now I can implement this, or now I've got a new way of organizing that works for me. I'm moving from the shoebox method to Excel, to QuickBooks, to like, all this other stuff. So don't think that you're going to be starting with a really sophisticated back office, online, all these interlinked things happening. Like, just start where you are. That's all.
Well, and if you can learn anything, I believe, like, we don't, those who learn the lessons of history do not repeat them. So if you can learn anything from my story, this is it. And it just happens to be that this is about credit cards, but it is, skip the shoebox and just get a credit card that separates your finance, because the number one thing you want to do is make sure that you can see your business. And if you don't want to go to a bank and do all that stuff, just get a credit card and start there, because you're going to see the separation and you're going to be able to look at what you're doing in a very practical way. The shoebox is nice, but skip that, go to the credit card. Those statements are a lot easier to look at, and you can dump them in an Excel spreadsheet. So start there and go. Follow your heart.
And earn your mistakes. Like you're gonna think about Heather and I, in another year or two, and you're like, oh my God, I totally made that stupid mistake too. Like some of the most brilliant financial moves and strategies that I have made have been because I just learned that lesson because it cost me 10 grand, or I just learned that lesson when, because I, made that mistake, and all of a sudden that just cost me X amount of dollars, and so it's like one of those, palm on your forehead type of moments of like, okay, I got it. I need to step up my game.
and make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Do it.
mean, that's part of this whole journey.
Yep.
Heather, thank you so much for being here, my dear. I really appreciate it. It has been amazing and so much wisdom gleamed. And I'm just so grateful that you shared it here with us today.
It's my pleasure. And I love this community. So thank you for continuing to include me in it and giving us all such great knowledge.
Love you, girl.
Love you too.
Choosing a business credit card can be tough. I didn't get my first one until 2016 because I was so overwhelmed by all of the intricacies. Which one do I pick? Which one has the best benefits? How do I manage the points? What if I choose wrong? The new Chase Inc. Unlimited Business Credit Card is the answer, and a tool that I wish that I had access to back then. It's simple. 1.5% cash back on all your purchases. No points to manage, no categories to worry about, no annual fees. Just 1.5% cash back every single time you use your card. The best part is you don't have to manage anything. It's a fantastic set it and forget it financial tool. Just use your Chase Inc. Unlimited Business Credit Card for all your normal business purchases. Hint, hint, put them on auto pay and earn your cash back. That simple. And then at the end of the month, pay it all off at once. Bonus cash flow management. If you want to get started with the Chase Inc. Unlimited Business Credit Card, just go to chase.com/Inc.